Hi there. So in the first video, I identified three things that I was going to focus on in these videos, namely rivalrousness, the broadcast modality of decision making, and the complex versus the complicated. The reason it's those three things, the reason those are the three subjects of these videos, are that in every iteration of game A, it is some combination of those three dynamics which have eventually caused the collapse of the civilization. And so it is those three areas in particular that Game B is focused on, trying to find a way to overturn these dynamics so that the civilization is long-term sustainable, not just for a couple of hundred years, but, over many millennia, and continues to evolve and continues to grow. So that's the vision for Game B. So this video is focused on the rivalrous and the anti-rivalrous. And just before I get into definitions, um, I would like to offer a warning that it is sometimes the case, and I will try to give these warnings whenever this happens, that the language that is not used in the everyday sense of the word. And so rivalrousness is not the same thing as rivalry. So rivalry in the sense of, two squash players getting together, evenly matched, have a really, really hard game. One wins, one loses. But actually, in a broader sense, both people have won. They've had a really good time. They've played better than they've ever played before. So both are winners in that grander sense. Um, in a similar way, if you're having an argument with someone in order to refine and strengthen the proposition that they're offering, it's not, again, it's a collaborative effort. You're arguing, you're exhibiting rivalry, but it is not rivalrous, because you're not seeking to beat the other person, right? You're not seeking to win at their expense. And this is the crucial difference between rivalry, which can be constructive and even generative, and rivalrousness, which is win-lose. One person gains at the other person's expense. It's a crucial difference to understand. Okay, so that said, let's move on and look at definitions of the rivalrous and the non-rivalrous as I am using them in this video. So the domain of the rivalrous basically covers any kind of physical item, right? Where if I have it, somebody else can't have it. And so that win-lose dynamic is perpetuated. So anything at all, food, water, even air. I mean, air is a good example, because at the moment, air is basically clean, right? We just breathe it. It's completely abundant. So we don't compete for it, right? There's no rivalrous dynamics surrounding air. If, however, in the future, the air gets yucky and smelly and we can't breathe it anymore, then clean air will become a rivalrous commodity, right? Some people will have it and some people won't. And the people that have it at the expense of the people that don't have it. So, even things which are completely non-rivalrous, that's the end of the spectrum where you have complete abundance, so there's no need to compete for it. Even things which are non-rivals can become rivalrous, and vice versa. Things which are highly rivalrous, by being made more available, can become less rivalrous. So that's pretty straightforward. The anti-rivalrous domain, these are things which, there's a couple of strands to this. So the first thing is that the more people have it, it does not become depleted in any way, right? So this applies to non-physical things. Good examples of non-rivalrous things are, well, ideas broadly in general, but more specific examples. The internet is an excellent example. Mathematics is an excellent example. Languages are an excellent example. Facebook is a really good example. So in all of these things, the more people that use them, the better they are, right? The more powerful they are, the more useful they are. And it doesn't cost the people that already have it. It costs them nothing for more people to have it, right? So that's one thing. It does not get depleted. It gets stronger as more people use it. And the other thing is that it's generative, right? So anti-rivalrous things allow more things to come on top of them. Again, the internet is an excellent example, right? So once the internet was invented, then a whole bunch of new technologies were possible as a consequence of the invention of the internet. And then once those were layered on top, then that prepared the ground for another layer of innovation to come on top of that, and so on and so on and so on. And so just to sum up one more time, the anti-rivalrous is not depleted the more people that have it. In fact, gets more useful, stronger, better the more people that have it, and is generative, allows new innovation to be built on top of the old innovation. Okay, so now that the definitions are out of the way, it's worth making the point that we have existed in rivalrous dynamics for every iteration of game A for 12,000 years, because for the very large majority of that, there was genuine scarcity. And so to have a mindset of, I need to protect this because otherwise someone else is going to take it and then I don't have it and there's not enough to go around, that kind of mindset was largely justified. But that is no longer the case, right? The world we live in now, the technology available to us now, scarcity in a huge number of physical items could be simply alleviated, right? And therefore reducing the degree to which we need to be rivalrous over these things. Um, the ultimate evolution of rivalrous dynamics is war, and this is why it's such a crucial thing to tackle, because, as I said in the first video, our ability to do war now is such that we could wipe us entirely out, not to mention a great deal of the rest of the stuff on the planet. So the need to tackle rivalrous dynamics is crucial. The other really ugly part of this is because we have this rivalrous mindset, right? This is the lens through which we see the world. We evaluate everything in these terms. Even things which are fundamentally anti-rivalrous get dragged into the rivalrous domain. So using Facebook again as an example, right? I mean, Facebook is a fundamentally anti-rivalrous thing. The more people that have it, the more useful it becomes. It's generative. All sorts of groups and idea tanks and so on start forming within the context of that, right? So it is absolutely an anti-rivalrous thing. However, because it exists in a rivalrous environment, it is forced to generate revenue for itself. How does it do that? Through advertising. What gets more advertising revenue? Well, more time on site. The stickier you are, the more time you can get people to spend on your site, the bigger your advertising revenues will be. And so Facebook is strongly incentivized to use whatever means it can to attract people to its site and to keep them there, right? They're essentially competing for your attention. They're competing with you for your attention and for your time. And so you are now in a rivalrous relationship with Facebook, because this is unlikely to be in your best interest, right, to spend hours and hours a day on Facebook as they would like you to. So you are now in rivalrous relationship with a fundamentally anti-rivalrous thing. And so if we go back to the definition of the anti-rivalrous, that it is generative, by trapping it in the rivalrous environment, you are restricting its ability to be generative. The concept of intellectual property, patent laws, these things serve to restrict the number of people who can work on any given idea. And so the generative nature of the anti-rivalrous is forever stifled and stymied by its existence in a fundamentally rivalrous environment. And this, to me, is the most important aspect of the Game B ideal of transmuting the rivalrous into the anti-rivalrous. I mean, apart from the avoidance of war, which, as I've already mentioned, is crucial, because our ability to make war is so self-destructive now. But if you can picture for a moment a global, completely anti-rivalrous playing field, right, where every single contribution that everybody makes, every innovation, every new idea that anybody has is accessible to everyone, right? It's the property of the commons, collectively owned by everyone. And so I make my contributions in the good faith knowledge and understanding that everybody else is making their contributions, and we all have access to all contributions via the common pool. And so this is the ultimate anti-rivalrous environment, because this, the generative nature of the ability to build on everybody's contributions at any given moment would just mean that the rate of progress would be staggering. Okay, so just to sum up, the rivalrous dynamics that have always existed in Game A have torn civilizations apart in the past. Rivalrousness leads to things like corruption and defection and hoarding and so on, which is hugely detrimental to the society as a whole. And so tackling rivalrous dynamics is one of the key features of the Game B project. And this broadly happens in two ways. Number one, alleviating scarcity, so that things which have the potential to be rivalrous are made as non-rivalrous as possible. And the second part of it, more importantly in my view, is unshackling the anti-rivalrous from the restrictive environment of the rivalrous. So I think that pretty much covers it. Next one is going to be on broadcast modality versus decentralized sense-making networks. And they kind of link together because, this problem of rivalrousness has never been solved before. So the creation of new sense-making and decision-making networks may have the possibility of solving that which has not been solved before. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much for watching.